What's up guys, Duke here, and I'm here to talk to you today about the Necropolis dungeon, in particular how to make a B10 auto team, or at least the theorycrafting behind it. Thanks for patiently waiting for this video, by the way. I was actually out sick with a flu for about a week. My voice is still recovering, but I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible. So here we have the Ancient Lich King. Basically, the first few rounds of Necropolis are no big deal. Trying to get to the boss is pretty easy. Now on the boss, the first attack hits all enemies and recovers half of that damage as HP, and it increases every time this skill is used. So that means that the boss really doesn't hit very hard at first, but starts hitting much harder as it goes on. That means that you really want to kill the boss as quickly as possible, so high DPS is recommended. For Imprisoned Soul, basically whoever did the most damage when the shield is down gets stolen, and therefore it's good for this mob to not be too tanky, so the rest of your team can kill it pretty quickly and get it back at your team again with half health. So mobs like Perna and Theomars are pretty bad, because once they're stolen, Perna has to be killed twice, and in the meantime he's healing the boss the whole time. And Theo also has to be killed, and then you have to remove the Endure buff and kill him again. Other mobs that tend to be risky are mobs that team up, sort of like Roke or Fire Agent or Tark. These mobs can be really good for breaking the shield, but if they get stolen, they team up with the boss, who does an AoE to your entire team along with the team up and increases damage. Alright, the third skill, Soul Barrier, this is the one that has a lot of people frustrated. Basically on B10 Necropolis, it takes 7 hits to break this barrier before you can even land any debuffs or before you can damage the boss at all, so you really need multiple hit mobs. The fourth skill here, the boss revives at 50% HP at the moment of death, and so the way you kill the boss is you have to keep on doing damage to it when the shield is down, and 30% of that incoming damage destroys the max HP of the boss. And the last passive is pretty interesting. The attack speed of all enemies and allies is suppressed, can't exceed a certain cap. And attack bar skills are not activated. This means that your typical Vertihile plus Hua team is not going to work here. But what this also means is that speed buff and speed debuff are especially valuable, because it gives you a lot more time to damage the boss once the shield is down, as well as to stack all your debuffs. So the rune locations are also going to be changing, and this is pretty important because Rage and Nemesis runes are pretty highly valued, and those will only be available in Necropolis, coming up pretty soon here in September. So what that means is farm giants and dragons as much as you can right now before the runes change, because Necropolis takes some really specific mobs and a really specific team. So make sure to get those Rage and Nemesis runes especially. Vampire and Shield can be useful as well, but Rage and Nemesis are essential to a lot of monsters, so get those while you can. Now the upcoming rune from Necropolis is called the Destroy rune, and it's nice because it's a 2-set. Basically what happens is, out of the damage you do, up to 4% of the enemy's max HP is destroyed, and basically it can't be healed. So this is almost like a permanent heal block, and it's going to be useful potentially against those high HP mobs and mobs that have attacks that are based on HP or healing based on HP, such as Chasung, for example. And the enemy can destroy it up to 60% total. That means they would be left with 40% of the original value. Let's say that it's a 10,000 HP monster. That monster would be left with 4,000. So note that this rune doesn't do additional damage, but what's happening is the damage cannot be healed back, essentially. So that will open up some interesting new comps. Now here's the team that I used to beat B10 Necropolis: Gibraltar, Vigor, Hua, Chasen, and Tessarian. This is by no means the ideal team. This was just what I happened to have on hand. Basically, Gibraltar is really good for Necropolis B10 auto. Vigor is really pretty good too. I just needed Hua for the slow debuff. I needed Chasen for the healing, of course. And then Tessarian I needed for the triple hit as well as the defense break. So why don't we talk about some mobs here that actually would be excellent for B10 auto. So if you're talking manual, some of the great mobs would be Oracles, Kobolds, Magic Knights. They all have 3 hits for their very first skill. There are other mobs that have 2 hits as well for the first skill. And the reason I say these are good for manual is because a lot of them, such as Soha, they have single hit second and third skills, which is not ideal. If you want to build an auto team, you really want to have the highest probability that the AI is going to use a multiple hit skill for your first couple of mobs. And that's why Gibraltar is so great. That's why I made him level 40 here. The first skill here attacks 3 times, and damage increases based on the number of harmful effects. This can actually do some decent damage once you stack enough debuffs on the boss. The second skill attacks 3 times as well, and blocking beneficial effects doesn't really work for the boss, but if one of your teammates gets stolen, you can prevent that person from getting a buff, which is not bad. This last skill is great. It attacks 4 times. Once it's max skilled, it would actually have only a 4-round cooldown, and it can inflict up to 4 dots that last for 2 rounds. That would be actually 40% of the boss's HP right there. Let's compare that to Orochi, for example, who would do 6 dots for 1 round. That's only 30% of the boss HP. So this has the potential to do even more damage than Orochi. And the great thing about Gibraltar is every single attack is 3 or 4 hits, and so the AI cannot mess up. The leader skill really isn't bad. If you have a fire-heavy team, increasing accuracy by 50% is actually pretty valuable for landing those debuffs, such as the dots here from Gibraltar. Now, he's not farmable, but there are other excellent farmable mobs available to you. In particular, Lukasha would be a great replacement for Gibraltar. And because Lukasha's first skill hits twice, and actually has a 100% chance to break defense once max skilled. Second skill hits 4 times and has only a 2-round cooldown in max skills. And the last skill hits 6 times with a 4-round cooldown. That means that no matter what, you're going to hit multiple times on the boss. Also, breaking defense is really valuable once that shield is down. This attack power leader skill could be useful again if you have a very fire-heavy team. So Lukasha is a great B10 auto mob. Another excellent B10 auto mob is Colleen here, the Fire Harpu. And the first attack hits twice. When max skilled, there's a 70% chance to decrease the attack power, which is a really nice debuff for the boss. The less damage the boss does, the less damage he's going to be healing back. This second skill has only a 3-turn cooldown when max skilled and prevents healing. That's so important for this boss because the boss constantly heals. And if you can prevent healing, then that's going to help you to kill the boss much faster. On top of that, this does hit 3 to 4 times. It can help you break the shield. The last skill here actually has only a 3-round cooldown when it's max skilled. And so that means basically a permanent attack buff for your team and then 25% HP recovered, which is almost as much as Baladian's 30%. So really not bad. Vigor is also really useful because of the heal block on skill 1. Skill 2 is a heal plus attack speed buff every 3 rounds. And so that's really useful again because of that speed cap. It helps you to act many more times before the boss gets to put the shield up again. And then also, of course, triple hit on the last skill here, 4-round cooldown. Does pretty decent damage, but more importantly, can also break defense. So it's another source of defense break. The leader skill is not going to help you in Necro Doctrine, but that's okay. He's useful in Guild Wars as well. Of course, if you had Eshir, the light werewolf, that would be even better. but we're looking at farmable mobs here. And Contiduous was nice enough to give us that Vigor SD over the weekend, so we can farm that. Alright, the next one is Dark Yeti, and I know a lot of you look at me like, what are you talking about? I thought he was just fusion food. No, he's actually pretty useful. The first skill hits twice and has a chance to slow both times. Second skill also slows. That's the key. He only has 2 attacks and both of them slow. No matter what, he's going to slow the boss. This second skill also does damage proportionate to max HP, which means he can nuke pretty hard if you set him up with like a HP, critical damage HP build. The last skill is really not relevant for Necro at all, but it makes him useful in some other scenarios. And then he could be used potentially if you have a very dark heavy team to increase the HP of all your allies. So these are a few really useful farmable mobs for Necro. Of course, there are others that are non-farmable that are excellent, such as Fire Ninetales, etc. But I want to give you a team that could potentially work with just purely farmable mobs. I'm going to give you in the next video coming up here some gameplay. I need to actually farm up some of these mobs myself once Fire Day hits, so I can get my Harpy, etc. Once I put the team together, then we'll see some gameplay coming up. So thanks again, everyone. Hopefully you found that useful. Please comment, like if you did, and subscribe to keep them coming. Thanks, guys.